Welcome to another edition of Energy Independence Magazine. I'm Sean Reynolds, and today I'll speak with Paul Granillo, President and CEO of the Inland Empire Economic Partnership. IEEP's mission is to create a strong and unified regional voice for developing the human, political, and financial capital to support and enhance the economic vitality and quality of life in the inland Southern California region. Guided by the region's business, political, and academic leaders, the IEEP has developed new initiatives to significantly impact regional issues including transportation, human capital, business, environment, and business development. Welcome, Paul.
Nice to be here, Sean.
The mission of the IEEP has changed over the years. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. When IEEP was created, it was really the business magnates of both Riverside and San Bernardino. So who am I talking about? I'm talking about the Yeager family and the magnates family, two family-owned construction companies, and others. And they saw the need for a regional approach to really reaching out to the federal government, state government, in order to deal with some of the growth issues that the inland region had at that time. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about, where do you put a courthouse, right? Should it be in San Bernardino or should it be in Riverside? Basically, these two cities are separated by 12 miles, so they're very close together. So there was definitely a need for cooperation.
Paul, what are some of your successes since you've been director?
Well, I've been at it for 3 years, and I think when I look at IEP today, I would say engagement on behalf of our region. You know, the state of California is a huge economy in itself, in the world. Unfortunately, too often, Riverside and San Bernardino counties have been forgotten. And yet, the Inland Empire has 4.2 million residents. If we were a state, we'd be the 26th largest state in the country. We're soon to be at 25. While we're 4.2 million people now, in the next 25 years, we're going to grow to be 6 million people. Riverside County on its own will be the second largest county in the state of California, next to Los Angeles County. That's a big region with a lot of people, with a lot of economic impact. And yet, too often, we've just been forgotten in the discussion. And so, as I look at IEP and where we've gone in the last 3 years, it's to make sure that the Inland Empire is represented in Washington, in Sacramento, within statewide business groups, statewide groups that deal with economic development and quality of life issues. And I have to say, we've been well received because people appreciate us outside of the region more than we appreciate ourselves. And the other part is just who is around the IEP table. IEP is a convener. We don't want to be king of anything. What we want to do is to create a leadership group that comes together to tackle some very important issues that affect a lot of people. So when I look at our members, when I look at our board of directors, when I look at their passion and engagement for this work of bettering the business climate and quality of life of the Inland Empire, I think that that's a big success. But that's not my success. That's the success of the leadership of our board of directors, and really the quality of people who are involved in this initiative. And they care about this area and they want it to be better.
Where do you see energy independence in the scope of this?
Well, as I said, if we were a state, we'd be the 26th largest state in the country. So how are we approaching the issue of energy independence? We need to change our mindset. We need to say, okay, as a major metropolitan region of the United States, how are we approaching energy and energy independence? As a place that is a very arid region, how are we approaching water and water conservancy? I said we're going to grow by almost 2 million people. How are we going to deal with the water issues, the energy issues? So we take these very seriously, and we're lucky to have California Edison and the gas company as members and major and major players in the Inland Empire Economic Partnership, because they are constantly looking at these issues.
Now, one thing that we see a lot of, especially in the recent months, are these installation of PV panels and electric vehicle charging stations.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that a qualified workforce is a good thing to have in place to be supporting these things?
Oh, absolutely. I think that as you look at hybrid vehicles, you look at the future for electric vehicles, it's coming. It's going to happen. People are going to be able to look at their lifestyle and say, do I need a car anymore? Or has my lifestyle such that within 10 or 15 miles, that's pretty much where I go. And so I can look right now at an electric vehicle. And having access to a charging station only makes that better. So I think that that's the future, and we need to be prepared for it. We need to be thinking about it. We need to be dialoguing with business, with the public sector, with our educational leaders, so that we're not recreating issues or creating issues because we're not coordinating.
Back to the infrastructure, as far as these electrical vehicle charging station goes in the government, do you support initiatives or some funding?
Well, I think that that's going to be required. I mean, we're coming off a great recession, all right? So people who are getting ready to get back into get back to business, and if their business is construction, they're still a little gun shy about the investment that they're going to put in place. Now, I think we need to help them, if that's possible, to make sure that they're taking the steps to put at least the necessary infrastructure in that's going to support, stick with electric cars, charging stations, all right? And yes, there are issues about what technology and what voltage are we going to use, but there are ways right now in new construction to make sure that we're putting in the basic infrastructure, so when those decisions are made, when the need is there, it's not going to be as cost prohibitive as it might otherwise be to have to dig a trench and put it all in, when we can be thinking ahead that this is the future and we need to be providing this service down the road.
Paul, where does the IEEP stand on the commercialization of solar energy?
I think when I talk about the importance of goods movement to the Inland Empire and our location geographically, certainly we have to look at the almost 20,000 square miles of desert that is part of Riverside and San Bernardino counties. There's a great opportunity for us to use pieces of that in order to provide electrical and solar energy into the grid. And so we look at some of the projects that are going on that are cutting edge projects as being very important. Certainly they're jobs creators, okay? And that's important to us. So we see that there is a need, again, to take advantage of what God has given us, okay? It has to be done well, it has to respect the environment, but if we do that, certainly we could be and should be, just because of, again, our location, our climate, an absolute leader in renewable energies, including, I have to say, geothermal out in the Imperial County as well.
In regards to the infrastructure and bringing new power into the region, how do we get the power where it's needed?
Well, this is a very difficult question to grapple with. So, and it's an issue of force, all right? You see a lot of people who look at renewable energy as the future, okay? And it is. Now, we need to make sure that the same people who are really in favor of renewable energy also don't become a stumbling block when it comes to putting in place the infrastructure that would make that possible. And so too often we have issues of transmission lines and transmission lines that are going to affect the environment. But the system just doesn't work. You can't take advantage of our deserts and put large solar operations out in the desert and then not have a way to transmit that power. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the need for political leadership, for those of us that want to see the sector grow, that want to see jobs out of that we are helping our elected officials who ultimately have to make some of these very difficult decisions about land use, that we're helping them to see that, no, this is what we want. Because too often a very loud minority who have a great love for the environment, but often can be a little myopic, get in the way. And so, again, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Paul, what are the drawbacks and dangers if we don't act on putting on this infrastructure?
Another good question. You know, we live in Southern California, so we spend a lot of time thinking about the big one, the earthquake, okay? Are we prepared? Are we going to make it through? The reality of our infrastructure when it comes to the delivery of electricity is that it's pretty bare bones. I mean, we're talking about, you know, 1 or 2 major transmission lines that if something happened to them, you're talking about a serious economic and possibly health calamity for our region and for Southern California. Now, we all have to realize, I'm 45 years old, okay? You know, when I was growing up, maybe the toaster was plugged in and the TV was plugged in and the stereo was plugged in. I have an iPad, I have an iPhone, my wife has an iPad and an iPhone. All of those things need to be plugged in. And I'm not hawking for Apple, right? I'm just saying our use of electricity has skyrocketed in the information age. We are so dependent. Many people don't even have a landline anymore, okay? So if we don't have a reliable source of electricity, if we're not making sure that there is redundancy built into the system, we are setting ourselves up for a major disaster. Not to be over, you know, to force the issue too much.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Paul.
Thank you, Sean.
The Riverside and San Bernardino counties of Southern California combined to create what is commonly known as the Inland Empire, which covers over 27,000 square miles and is home to more than 4 million people. Members of the IEEP are executives who believe in responsible development of the Inland Empire economy and recognize the value of a coordinated regional team. Education, healthcare, and transportation are just a few of the priorities of the IEEP, where energy independence plays a substantial role. No doubt, there will be continued challenges to economic growth in this vast region, and we wish Paul Granillo and the members of IEEP the best of luck. Thank you for watching another edition of Energy Independence Magazine. I'm Sean Reynolds.